something that I wanted to talk about was when I swapped my rear sprocket or pulley, whatever you want to call it, onto this older Dyna wheel. These wheels came off of a 99. And in 99, the center hub diameter for the sprocket, the pulley, on the wheels was 1.9 and some change, 1.9 inches. On the newer bikes, 2000 and newer, that center hub diameter is 2.1 something. So the newer pulley actually has a bigger centering hole than the older pulleys or wheels. So I have heard that you can, it's the exact same bolt pattern, exact same hole centers and everything. Just that center hub diameter changed a little bit. And I've heard you can use the newer pulleys on the older wheels. You just have to do your best to kind of center them. And again, the bolts that hold it to the wheel, 5 of them, they do a pretty good job, but there's still a little movement, you know. So I did my absolute best to center that up. Again, big hole in the pulley, little hole on the wheel. And then blew Loctite and tightened all of those bolts down. So tonight, just to see how close it was, I took a dial indicator, I put it right on the edge of this pulley, and I clamped it to my swing arm. I've got the bike jacked up with the rear wheel off the ground. So I set that dial indicator to 0, and we're going to spin this wheel around and see what kind of reading we get. How far out from dead center is it? So, kind of hard to see, but we're sitting on 0. You can see the, right over here is our dial indicator. So I'm going to start rolling this wheel. You can see it wiggling a little bit. That's like 1 to 2 thou right there. Still sitting around 0. Still sitting around 0. There's 1 thou. There's like 2 to 3. There's about 4. And we should be, well, what was that? It's about 5 thou. It's hard to tell. It's a little blurry. That's sitting at about 5 thousandths. Now I started this with the valve stem basically in line. There, it's coming back. There's our valve stem. So we've rolled this wheel all the way around, and the farthest out, according to that dial indicator, that pulley was 5 thousandths. So that is like incredibly close. That 5 thousandths could be in a casting defect. So for all intents and purposes, that pulley is dead center, even though the hole is much bigger than the centering pulley of the hub for the rear wheel. So I think we can live with that. Frickin' sweet. Now eventually we'll go to a chain drive on this. So, you know, it'll be a rear sprocket, a front sprocket, and a chain. But in the meantime, we'll run it like this. So you can in fact run the newer, bigger diameter hold center sprockets on the older hubs. And it works just fine. Well, the bike got its first official bath. I've owned this thing since January, and here we are almost June, and it got its first bath today. Up to this point, I've just been using, you know, wet rags and dry rags to clean off the chrome. But man, is it spotless. It's freaking shiny. So if there is one thing that's driven me nuts about this bike since I got it, it's the grips. Aesthetically, I think they look fine. You know, they're chrome bottom with these rubber protrusions, and they are Harley Davidson. The problem is, well, number one, this has always been rattly, and I've never been able to get it tightened up. But number 2 is the diameter of these things. They are frickin' massive. I'm a small guy. I'm 5'7", you know, 180 pounds. Riding with these, I measured across them with my calipers, and they measure 1 5/8 inches. And to me, that's like trying to palm a basketball. They're just incredibly uncomfortable. So I wanted to change these grips out. I have since the very first time I rode the bike, and I've just been stalling on it. So I ordered some new grips, and I ordered them specifically because they were quite a bit smaller in diameter. They measure 1 3/8 inches. So these are them right here. It's hard to tell. They're billet aluminum and they are hollow. So we're getting ready to install these grips on there. And it's much smaller diameter, so much more comfortable. Anyhow, we'll get those on and check them out, see how they work. So we got this side on, this is the left side, and it just frickin' looks fantastic. I love that thing. Hollow, you can see through the handlebar. But this thing is attached. The factory grips, you have to split this housing open. It's two-part. And the factory grip kind of slides up in there, and then you clamp this back down, and that keeps that grip from coming off. This aftermarket version has 3 little set screws. Reading the reviews on these, the most common problem was that people were having issues with the set screws not holding and the grip coming off. One guy posted his solution to that. I thought it was a great idea, so I did it. What I did was I slid this grip on, snugged all 3 of these set screws up, took one out at a time, and I used a transfer punch and punched the center hole for each one of those screws. Took it back off, took my drill, and then I drilled a dimple into each one of those 3 punch marks with a small drill bit, put blue Loctite on each one of them, and then ran them down into that dimple. So now they won't come off. That was his solution. I think it's a good one, so I did it. So that was, believe it or not, the tough side. We're getting ready to do this side. I love the look, though. Man, that looks good. All right, well, we got the throttle side on and done. The only modification I had to make to it was where the throttle or the cable ends slip into it. The hole had to be dremeled out just a slight bit bigger to fit my cable ends. So these grips are actually a universal set of grips for 1-inch handlebars. So they're universal for dual throttle cable as well. So they work fairly well on Harleys. But again, you had to do a little modification because they're not a factory Harley-Davidson grip. But for the price, you just can't beat them. They're chrome-plated billet aluminum. Made in China, of course, but 17 bucks to my door, and I think they are freaking good looking, and the size is fantastic. I love the diameter of them. It's quite a bit smaller. The old grips were 1 5/8. These are 1 3/8, so 1/4 inch overall diameter smaller. I'm getting ready to go test ride her. I'm excited. So my fork bag showed up. I've got it mounted down here in the lower half of the frame. I ran a fork bag like this on my Virago, however I ran it up on the forks, and I used it quite a bit for miscellaneous tools and things like that. And, you know, you can, if you roll it tight enough, you can put a little flannel inside there or whatever. But the main reason I wanted this bag on this bike was to carry just a little bit extra fuel. And I've kind of got my bike down to a science now, but you know, for other guys that I may run into. And it doesn't hold a lot. You know, I've got a small bottle in there. It's not quite a quart, but close. Anyhow, so I'm just carrying a little extra bottle of fuel around with me. It came with these generic little straps. I tried them at first to put them on the frame, and they just feel flimsy. It feels like there's a likely chance these will rip off and that thing will fall underneath the bike and get ran over. So I did away with that, and I just use zip ties. I feel much, much, much better about zip ties than these phony little straps that came with it. There we are. We got our fork bag on. I like it. I think it looks pretty good. So I really wanted to get a video of the shadow of the bike as I was going along, and you can see my hand holding the camera there sticking up. So YouTube throws a huge fit every time I try to put any kind of music to my videos that's decent or worth listening to. So we end up with this generic crap you can hear playing right now, and again, I apologize for that, but it is what it is. So this was a pretty cool shot. I really like looking at the front fork while I'm riding. I like watching it work, and it's just real mechanical. I enjoy that. So this particular road I ride quite a bit. It's about a 5-mile loop, relatively close to my house. Lots of twisties in it, and it takes you right down along the water. Just some really beautiful views. It is a fantastic ride. And there's something about this shot I really like. I don't know what it is, but I like it. Yeah, this is what it's all about. Just me and the bike. It's hard to tell because of how bright it is, but beautiful bay. Fantastic day. It's supposed to rain for the next 2 or 3 days, so I'm getting my riding in while I can. So thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please subscribe, rate, and comment, and we'll see you guys on the next update.